Good Sunday afternoon to you YouTubers and subscribers to Apple Stump Bushcraft Stuff and Things, and anybody that just happened by. Hope you're having a great Sunday. Today we're going to do another part of our experiments, I guess you would say, with Marmite. You may recall we tried it out for the first time in our last episode. Today we're going to add it to a favorite recipe. Come on along with us, see what happens. First we have some butter. This is sweet cream butter, salted. 2 4-ounce cubes. And we're going to put it in the pan back there. Cut it up. There we have it. For ease of making this recipe, I'm going to go ahead and melt the butter right now. And so that's going to melt for a few minutes. When it's nice and melty, then we'll come back and add the next ingredient. Alright, that's looking pretty melty in there. It's not quite ready, but we're getting there. Alright, well, the butter's finishing melting. The second ingredient is going to be this American Process Cheese Food. It's not the famous brand, but it's essentially the same thing. So we're going to cut off 3 of these pretty big slabs, and we're going to save the rest of it. What I'm going to do is dice them up a little bit so that they melt easier, because they're going in the melted butter. So let's add those now while the butter finishes melting. So this is 3/4 of a pound of cheese, roughly. And that takes care of the cheese component. I'll cover that and let those melt together for a little bit. Supposedly helps to stir these now and then. They're melted better. We're using kind of medium heat here so that it doesn't stick to the pan. Although some of you may recognize this pan as being one of those ones that nothing sticks to. Well, stuff sticks to this one. Give it a little bit more time. While the butter and cheese mixture is melting, we're going to do a little prep work here. So this is 1 2-pound bag of powdered sugar. Alright, let's see how they're doing. Yeah, that's nice. Pretty melty. I'm gonna stir everything together, kind of get the even consistency between the cheese and the butter. Okay, we'll call that good. Now for the next ingredient. After you see this one, you might know where we're going with all of this. We need 6 ounces of unsweetened baker's chocolate. This particular brand happens to be Hershey's, but it's unsweetened baking chocolate. I'm going to start stirring that in. And obviously the temperature is fine for melting chocolate in. And the mixture is starting to get browner and browner. Just what we want. You gotta keep it moving in this particular pan unless you want it stuck to the bottom. Next ingredient is 2 tablespoons of corn syrup, but we're going to put honey in instead. This happens to be wild clover honey. And about a teaspoonful of vanilla extract. Some more time, some more heat. Well, a little bit lumpy, but it usually is. I think we're ready to commence. Okay, here we go. A little bit at a time. See what I mean about it sticking to the bottom of the pan there? It does. And that is not something that you would want to eat necessarily. It's pretty bitter. What I like to do before I start the electric mixer is kind of fold this in by hand. It tends to keep the amount of powdered sugar that climbs up the mixer and gets all over everything to the minimum. That'll kind of help it out a little bit. Put some nuts in there. These are pecans. A cup and a half of those. chopped. So we're going to try to put half of this into this pan, or this baking dish, about half of it. I have to kind of eyeball it because I really don't have any way to measure it. About there, I think. Smooth it out best we can. So in the clear one, we have the fudge pretty much plain, I mean the way the recipe calls for. Let's pop this back onto the mixer. And before it gets too cool, we're going to add a tablespoon, a big tablespoon of Marmite. Now you notice the recipe doesn't call for any salt. Previously I've thought that that was probably because of salt being in the cheese. That Marmite all incorporated into the fudge. And that should do it. Okay, let's move this aside. Just so we can distinguish one dish from the other, which has the Marmite and which does not, using a different color. So the darker dish will have Marmite in it. Okay, that's about the most I can get out of that. You can see we've got a lot more in this one than we did in the other one. So this better be good, huh? Let's put them in the refrigerator where they have to set up for about 3 hours. So there's the Marmite fudge. And here is the non-Marmite fudge. See what happens. I won't find out how it tastes until I find out on camera and you see the results. So stand by. Welcome back. It's about 3 hours after I put it in the refrigerator, and here we have the non-Marmite standard recipe, at least my recipe, my adaptation of a recipe that I found on the internet. So what I'm going to do is cut just a small piece, try to make it about equal for each of them. And we'll put it in a little paper cupcake wrapper. This will be our sample for the non-Marmite adaptation of the fudge recipe. Alright, let's get a piece of the Marmite fudge. Again, we'll take just a little piece out of the corner. Try to make it about the same size. And for this one, we have a cupcake wrapper with a little M in the bottom, so we know that it's the Marmite. Just in case it doesn't taste any different, I suspect it's going to. Alright, we're ready to give it a go. So, for a palate cleanser, we're not going to have tea today, we're going to have unsweetened 100% apple juice and just a little swig. So, first, contending for the USA, regular non-marmited cheese fudge. Down the hatch. So there's no cheese taste to it whatsoever. It's nice and chocolatey, nutty because of the pecan pieces. It's not grainy because we use powdered sugar. Can't really taste the butter in there, although it's a significant component. Have another little bite. Good, tastes like fudge. Melts in your mouth, and it will melt in your hand, which is why I'm using a fork. And the last little piece of the USA contribution to this taste test. Trying to tell whether there's any flavor of the honey that I put in there instead of high fructose corn syrup, which is what it calls for. And I don't really taste the honey in there. Alright, palate cleansing time, unsweetened apple juice. See if that's enough, I hope so. That's rather astringent. Okay, we're going to wait a couple minutes. Allow our taste buds to return to their previous state. And then we'll take on the Marmite recipe. So stay tuned. Alright, palate cleansing accomplished. We rested in there about 5 minutes. Now it's time for the big test. Drum roll please. American cheese fudge with Marmite added. Smells like fudge. First bite. Down the hatch. Definitely different. It's a stronger taste, I would say. Not off-putting. It's not exceptionally salty. I think that was probably the right amount to put in there. Okay, after the initial blast of chocolate fudge flavor has hit and the sweetness, then the Marmite is kind of an aftertaste. Again, it's not unpleasant. Tastes fine. So Marmite offers an added bonus over not putting it in the fudge, in that it has a lot of B vitamins and quite a bit of nutrition, potassium and some other things. You can check the label and see what they are. Check on the Marmite website, you'll find the link at the bottom of the page. Also, I will include the recipe of this fudge at the bottom of the page in the description in case you want to make some. You can make it with or without Marmite, doesn't make any difference. But the Marmite fudge is a definite thumbs up. It tastes fine. It's different than this, but different isn't always bad, so down the hatch. Nice and creamy, chocolatey, sweet, with the added tang of a little bit of saltiness and a little bit of Marmite aftertaste, which is difficult to describe. Definitely tastes good. And so we'll have some fudge on hand here at the house for quite a while. Some with and some without Marmite. This was a little surprise episode of Apple Stump Bushcraft Stuffin' Things. We've been thinking of different ways to use Marmite, and we thought up this one last night. Just happened to have all the ingredients on hand. And so now we have a bunch of fudge with Marmite and a bunch of fudge without it. Hope you have a great Sunday. Be well, be safe, and we'll see you next time. Apple Stump Bushcraft Stuff and Things saying adios.